الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى كما ورد في سورة الجمعة: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ربنا ألهمنا رشدنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين يا رب العالمين. Dear brothers and sisters and sons and daughters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, in the previous 3 sessions, in addition to the preliminary introduction to the Surah Al-Jummah, we completed our study of its first part, which consists of 4 ayat and which is the most important part of the surah. Because the ayah number 2, as I told you, is the central axis, central theme, the umud of this surah. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. These 4 terms regarding the basic functions of the Prophet ﷺ have been repeated in the Quran 4 times, as we have seen already. Then after the study of this first part, then we completed our study of 2 ayat from the second part also. And now we have to proceed. But before proceeding forward, let us review a general translation of these ayat which we have already studied with some added interpretations so that the ground is prepared for our further study. يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Everything which is in the heavens and which is in the earth glorifies Allah, and this glorification is going on from ever, at any moment, and it will continue forever. Al-Malik, he is the supreme sovereign. Al-Quddus, he is all holy. Al-Aziz, he possesses all authority. Al-Hakim, he is all wise. As I told you, these 4 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the 4 attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have a direct bearing on the four functions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we can translate the second ayah, keeping in view these four names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a different way. And that is, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. It is He, that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who raised from among the unlettered people a messenger from among themselves. What does he do? Because Allah is Al-Malik, the Supreme Sovereign, therefore his last prophet and last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is reciting to humanity, is reading out to the mankind his proclamations, royal proclamations, his royal writ. These things the Prophet ﷺ is reciting to the people who are the subject, who are the subjects of that supreme sovereign. Number two, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all holy, therefore his last prophet and last messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is purifying the souls of the people who believe in him. Number three, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابِ, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Aziz, He commands and possesses all authority. Therefore, his last prophet and messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is teaching people his laws, his do's and don'ts, his commandments. Wal hikmah, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakim, all-wise, therefore his last prophet and last messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is imparting wisdom to the people who believe in him. So these four functions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are a reflection of the four names or attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِن كَانُوا مِن قَبْلُ لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. Surely these unlettered people of Arabia, and especially the progeny of Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam, they were before in clear ignorance. They had no ignorance. First of all, they were unlettered people. Very few of them knew writing and reading. Number two, and which is more important, they didn't have any book with them. No law, no sharia. So ummiyin, in kanu min qablu lafi dhalalin mubin, they were in clear ignorance. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed, rather fulfilled, all these four missions regarding these ummiyin, the people of the Arabian Peninsula, and especially Bani Ismail, and most especially Al-Quraysh. He performed and fulfilled these four functions himself, and then prepared an ummah out of them. Why? Because he was sent also for the whole of humanity. وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ. His general risalah, his general bi'sah, he has been sent with two missions before him. Firstly, he has been sent especially for the people of Arabia, and most especially for Bani Ismail, from among whom he was born, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But actually, there is a general, mission also regarding the whole of mankind, all of humanity, and that has been referred to here. وَآخَرِينَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُوا بِهِ. They are from them, from the ummah, potentially, but they have not as yet joined them. As time passes, nations after nations, races after races, countries after countries will join this ummah. As I told you, the structure of this ummah is just like the structure of an atom, having a nucleus in the center, and then we have the electrons encircling that nucleus. In the same way, the nucleus of this ummah consists of al-ummiyin, the pagan Arabs of Arabia who converted to Islam, who accepted Islam and Iman, and especially the progeny of Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. and then secondarily, nation after nation. They are akhareen. Both go to make the ummah. So the akhareen is also from them. But the difference will remain. As I told you, that because the Prophet ﷺ fulfilled the mission for the people of Arabia himself, that is why there was no concession given to them. When he had completed and accomplished his mission, the only option to them was either accept Islam or they will be massacred. فَإِذَنْ سَلَخَ الْأَشْهُرُ الْحُرُمْ فَاقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ. But because for the rest of the mankind, all the other nations, starting from the Iranians, or the Romans, or the Egyptians, or the Indians, or the Turks, and go on to the whole humanity, because to them, this conveying of the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not through directly a Rasul who is infallible, whose character is above board. This mission has been performed by the ummatis, people, the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Therefore, they have been given a concession. They can either accept Islam or they can remain in any other religion. But they will have to accept the superiority of the Islamic State. The law of the land will be of Islam, of Allah, Allah's deen. But they can have their personal laws, their religious freedoms. This was the second alternative offered to them by the armies of Sahaba Ikram when they came out of the Arabian Peninsula during the caliphate of Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Usman, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. Either become Muslims, you will equal to us in every respect, or you surrender. You can remain, you like to remain Jew, okay, remain. You want to remain Christians, okay, you can remain. You want to remain Majusis, okay, you can remain. You want to remain Hindus, okay, you can remain. But you will have to surrender to the Islamic State. You will enjoy the freedom of religion. Whomsoever you want to believe, you believe in him. In one God, 1,000 gods, no God, you are free. Whomsoever you want to worship, worship them. In whatever way you want to solemnize your marriages, okay, go ahead, you have the freedom. In whatever way you want to dispose of the dead body, you can do it. You are free to do it. Social customs, your religion, your dogma, your modes of worship, your places of worship, then you know laws of marriage, inheritance. You will have the autonomy, freedom. But you know the law of the land, the criminal law, and the civil law, that will be of Islam. And you will have to pay jizya. Hatta yu'tul jizyata an yadim wa hum saghirun. This was the second option. And third was that if you don't accept the second also, then come in the field. Only sword will decide the matter between us, between you and us. So that is the difference between Ummiyin and Akhareen. It's a very important difference. But you know, because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent for the whole of humanity, for all mankind, hence now the mission of the Risalah of the messengerhood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was handed over to the Ummah. And along with this mission, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam handed over the book, Quran, that this is my miracle. Through this I performed all these functions. Yatlu alayhim ayatihi wa yuzakkihim wa yu'allimuhumul kitaba wal hikmah. All these four functions revolve round Quran. The pivot, the central axis is Quran. So I am handing over to you this instrument of revolution, this instrument with which I have revolutionized human beings, individuals, change their thinking, change their characters, change their behaviors, change their values. So now take it from me. I quoted, you know, his saying, which he said in the end of his sermon on the eve of the last Hajj, قَدْ تَرَكْتُ فِيكُمْ مَا إِنِ اعْتَصَمْتُمْ بِهِ لَن تَضِلُّوا أَبَدًا كِتَابَ اللَّهِ. I am leaving with you the book of Allah. If you cling to it, if you hold fast to it, you will never go astray. It will show you the right path. It will show you the light. At any moment, at any occasion, when you find any difficulty, Quran will be the light. It will show you the path. Now, because Quran was being given to the Ummah, in order that the general mission of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam be fulfilled through the ummah, there was a warning which was given. And here starts the second part. The warning is that, O Muslims, don't follow in the footsteps of the former Muslim ummah, the Yahud, the Bani Israel. As you are being given Quran today, they were also given Torah 2000 years before you. And it was their duty not only to act upon Torah and its commandments, but also to convey it to the people, not to the all of humanity, but to all of Bani Israel at least. It was their duty. They must have read it, they must have acted upon it, they must have understood it, they must have followed it. But you know, because that ummah didn't take this attitude, now they have become maghdubi alayhim, lest you should also follow in their footsteps. That is why, as a sign of warning, this ayah appears in this Surat al-Jummah. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ حُمِّلُوا التَّوْرَاةَ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَحْمِلُوهَا كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. The similarity or the similitude of those who were given the responsibilities, حُمِّلُوا, who were given the burden of the responsibilities of Torah, and then they didn't fulfill the responsibilities, is like an ass or donkey which carries a load of very good books, very high books, literary books, philosophical books. As you know, the donkey or the ass cannot benefit from that book. In the same way, the ummah then it cannot benefit from the book if they are not doing the responsibilities. Here the word asfara, I didn't explain it. It's interesting, you know. Sin fara, this root, it means something with which knowledge is added. You add to your knowledge through something. This means also light. Musfira. There will be many faces on the day of judgment. Wujuhun yawma'idhin musfiratun dhahikatun mustafshira. There will be faces who will be bright. So light is also sifr, sin, fe, ra. Then suffer, journeying, because journeying also adds to your knowledge. You know many things when you go to some new place, new city, new country. You know so many things which you never knew before. So again, this is also from the same root. And then sifr for book. Actually, because book is the source of adding to the knowledge. So all these three words, journeying, light, and book, the same root, sin, fara. Here it is for the books. Yahmilu asfara. Their example is like the example of the donkey or ass, which is carrying a load of books. Bi'sa masalul qawmi allazina kazzabu bi ayatillah. Very bad, very wicked and wretched is the similitude or the example of those who have falsified the ayat of Allah, who have falsified the revelations of Allah. Although they accept by their tongues that this is the book of Allah, they accept that Torah is the book of Allah, but because they are not acting upon it, they are not fulfilling their responsibilities regarding the book, therefore practically they are falsifying. They are practically giving a lie to this Torah. Now this was actually a sign of warning for us, and we can only be sorry that the ummah actually behaved just in the same way in which the former ummah had behaved. We treated Quran in the same way, exactly the same way in which the former Muslim ummah treated their book, that is Torah, with one exception only, and that is we couldn't corrupt or disrupt the text of the Quran. We couldn't change the wordings of the Quran. And that is also not because we didn't want to do it. That is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had guaranteed it from the very beginning that this text will not be corrupted. Inna nahnu nazzalna zikra wa inna lahu lahafizun. Otherwise the meanings have been changed. So many times, khud badalte nahi Quran ko badal dete hain. Huwe kis darja faqihan haram be tawfiq. Now we are proceeding further, and the three ayat of the remaining second part, they concern with and they deal with the reason why people take to this attitude. Why is Muslim ummah, when it is given a book of Allah, and they believe in it, that is the book of Allah, then why don't they act upon it? Why don't they spend their time and capabilities to understand it? Why don't they propagate it? So what is the reason? What's the diagnosis? What's the disease? What's the pathology? What happens to them? This is very important, because the diagnosis here, although it is concerning here the Bani Israel, the Yahud, but the same diagnosis we find that there is in the attitude of the Muslims, of the Muslim Ummah. Ya ayyuhalladheen, qul ya ayyuhalladheena hadu. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say to these people, O you people who have become Yahud. Now this is a very special type of address. Usually in the Quran we find, Ya Ahlul Kitab, Ya ayyuhalladheena, Ya ayyuhalladheena ataynahumul kitab, Ya ayyuhalladheena utul kitab. So that is the general mode of addressing. But here, Ya ayyuhalladheena hadu, there must be some difference. First of all, please note, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Bani Israel and their good aspect is referred to, then it is in ma'ruf, alladhina ataynahumul kitab, those whom we gave our book. But where some wrong aspect, bad aspect, some negative aspect is to be referred to from their attitude, then it is majhul, it is the passive voice. Allazina utul kitab, who were given the book. Allazina ataynahumul kitab, those whom we gave the book. This is the active voice. Allazina utul kitab, those who were given the books. And the general difference is that whenever some good aspect of their behavior or their attitude is to be mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to them, Allazina ataynahumul kitab, those to whom we gave the book. And wherever some negative aspect, some bad aspect of their behavior or attitude is to be referred, then they are mentioned by the wordings, Allazina utul kitab. And here we find the third mode of address for these people, and that is why. Please note, Yehuda was the name of the fourth son of Hazrat Yaqub, alayhi salatu wassalam. The progeny of Yehuda, and they joined with them the progeny of Binyamin. Binyamin was the 12th son, the youngest, because Yusuf alayhi salatu wassalam and Binyamin, they were the youngest of the 12 sons of Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. And they were from one mother. The 10 others were, they were older and elder to both of them. They were in total 12 sons. And Bani Israel actually were the progeny of 12 sons of Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. Banu means sons. Ya Bani Israel, O sons of Israel. And Israel was, a word used for Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. In Hebrew language, Israel means Abdullah, the servant of Allah, the bondman of Allah. Actually, the Arabic words, Abdullah, and Hebrew, Israel, Isr and Il for Allah, and Isr for Asir. In Arabic also you have this Asir, someone who is in bondage. The bondsman to Allah was Israel, and that was the second name of Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wassalam. And the sons 12, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him 12 sons, and from them began 12 tribes. So out of these 2 tribes, the progeny of Yehuda, the 4th son of Hazrat Yaqub, along with the progeny of the youngest son Binyamin, they established a very big empire which was called Yehuda. All the other sons, they joined together to establish another empire, and that was called Israel. Israel was the name of that empire. And then later on the name was changed to Samaria. But actually Yehuda was the bigger, and the more southern area, of Palestine was occupied by Yehuda. And it is actually this nation, the sons, because the progeny of Binyamin was very small, and it's not very important in the history of Bani Israel. But the progeny of the 4th son Yehuda, they prospered. They were great in numbers. And Yehudi actually is sort of reference to Yehuda, the progeny of Yehuda, the 4th son of Hazrat Yaqub. And it is this tribe actually which 800 years after Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, their rabbis and their ahbar and their ulama, they compiled a book of the rituals and laws. And this book, which is called Talmud, it is actually their book, not Torah. Torah doesn't hold any importance for these Yehudis, these Jews of today. It's only a historical document that this book was given to Moses. Then you know, along with the five first books of Torah, there are the Sahife, the Sohuf, which were given to other prophets. So to them this is more or less a historical document, nothing else. The laws in detail, if we call in our terminology the fiqh, and all their ceremonies and the conditions that have to be fulfilled with each ceremony, and this concept of goyim and Gentiles, that they are inferior and we are the superior and we are the chosen people of the Lord and we can do anything to these goyims. We are not going to be held responsible if we deceive them, if we cheat them, if we rob them, if we kill them. All the rest of humanity is goyim or Gentiles, and we can do anything to them, and we shall not be held responsible for any injustice that we do to any goyim or any Gentile. All this Sharia actually is of Talmud, not of Torah. And their real book today is Talmud. So Quran here is referring to them not as Bani Israel. Now they are being referred here to as Ya ayyuhallazina hadu, who have become Yahudis. Now you people, you have taken to new dogmas and new creed and new laws and new details. Qul ya ayyuhallazina hadu in za'amtum annakum awliya'u lillah. Now this is the diagnosis. If you think, if you are under a false notion that you are like sons of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are very dear to Him, then you should long for death if you are really true in this concept of yours. If you really believe you are the friends of Allah to the exclusion of the whole of the humanity, then you should have the desire to beat Him as soon as possible, not to keep away from Him. So actually this is a test. Now let me give you here a brief background of this diagnosis, because this diagnosis is very important, because the same disease, same pathology, it has happened to us also. We are also not acting according to the Quran. We only believe that the Quran is the book of Allah. In no country in this world, the so-called, out of this so-called 50 or 60 Muslim countries, the system of Quran is in vogue or established or enforced totally. Why? Actually the diagnosis is the same. The disease is the same. History has been repeating itself. So now we should understand that diagnosis. First of all, the eternal law of Allah Ta'ala, from the very beginning, and it is eternal, permanent law of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is, as has been enunciated in 3 ayat of Surat Al-Najm. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. There will be nothing for any man except for what he had done hard work and labor. You can't get anything out of wishing. You can't get anything because you belong to a certain nation or certain group. You have to work, you have to do labor, you have to struggle, you have to make sacrifices if you want to earn something with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, earn the rewards of the hereafter. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. There is nothing for any man except for what he himself labored. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. The second ayah. But for what he labored, he worked hard, he will see that will be present before his eyes. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will not deprive him of any of his acts or deeds. As we have found, in the last section of Surah Al-Imran, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ أَنِّي لَا أُضِيعُ عَمَلَ عَامِلٍ مِّنْكُمْ مِّنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنثَىٰ. I am not going to waste or deprive any one of you of any deed, good deed that you have done, whether you be male or female. بَعْضُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْضٍ. You are from each other. So actually Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala will not deprive any human being of his labor, his hard work, his deeds, if he has done any. أَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءَ الْأَوْفَى. Not only that he will see what I did, He will see what he had done in the world, but he will be rewarded, and the reward will be full. ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءُ الْأَوْفَى. Full reward of whatever he did. Now these three ayat of Surah Al-Najm, وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءَ الْأَوْفَى. So long as the Muslim Ummah believes in these ayat and this eternal divine law, they act according to the book that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to them, followed the book, and fulfilled the responsibilities regarding the book. But after some time, there started Zom and Amani. These two terms are very important. Zom, Zam, it means a false notion. You believe in something, although it is not based on reality. Amani is wishful thinking, umniya. Umniya, tamanna. We know this word in Urdu, tamanna, this is from the same root. So actually tamanna, umniya, amani, wishful thinking. So these two terms are very important. The example of Zam is, Nahnu abna'ullahi wa hibba'uhu. We are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like his sons. They are very dear to him. So he will not throw us into the fire of hell. How can he? Can anybody throw his own son in the fire of hell? He will not. Nahnu abna'ullahi wa hibba'uhu. This was their Zam. This was the false notion that they had about themselves. And secondly, the example of Amani, قالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة. قالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودات. Twice this ayah has been repeated. Al-Baqarah 80, Al-Imran 24. Now these two things joined together, what the result would be? Logical result, inevitable result would be, now laxity in action and deeds. Why should I labor hard when I am not going to be held responsible for my deeds? Why should I have only the halal and deprive myself of haram, when you know if I earn by haram means, prohibited means, I can have more luxuries of life. Why should I deprive myself when I am not going to be thrown in the fire of hell, when I am not going to be, and even if you know, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if he, you know, makes us enter the fire of hell, it will be only for a few days. He will take us out. We shall not remain there for eternal. So that is actually when the laxity starts in action and deed. Why should I act upon Quran? Why should I act upon Torah? When you know I have to be saved anyhow. The salvation and najah and falah, they are my birthright. Because I belong to a certain ummah. I belong to a certain nation. I belong to a certain community. So my salvation is ensured. So why should I do the labor? Why should I go to war for the cause of Allah? Why should I confine myself to whatever is permissible and halal? Why not to take to the attitude of eat, drink and be merry? So that is the inevitable result. And then the second result is that the faith that they had in the book, it declines. Just like, you know, ice is melting, the faith within their hearts, due to their misdeeds, due to their, you know, taking the haram methods, the faith and yaqeen and iman within them, it now starts decreasing. There's a very important ayah in Surah Shura. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. After the messengers of Allah, the book that they gave to their ummah, after some time it happened that the belief of the ummah in the book, that started decreasing. Shukuk, doubts started appearing in their minds. Raib, you know, shak is to the intellect, to the thinking. Raib is something in the heart. Both these faculties, head and heart, we use these words. They start having raib in their hearts and shak in their minds. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. Although they profess from their tongues that this is the book of Allah. The Yahud, they have been professing and they are professing till today that Torah is the book of Allah. In the same way we profess we say, we claim that we have faith in Quran, that this is the word of Allah, this is the kalam of Allah, this is the book of Allah, and this is safe. No change has been made. It is absolutely pure. The text is absolutely pure and authentic. But still we are not acting according to it. Why? وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. There starts doubts and rabs, shak and rab. And if they go, and you know, this is a vicious circle. Now due to doubts and rab, again they will be more lax in their actions. Now laxative actions will increase their doubts. So what you call a vicious circle starts. And gradually the faith dwindles, weakens, and nearly disappears. And it only now becomes with them a creed, a racial creed, that we believe in Quran, we believe in Torah, while they have no belief real, no faith, real faith in their hearts or in their minds. This is the fate that every Muslim ummah has been having. And we are no exception. We stand at the same place today, where Yahud stood when the Quran was being revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the final result is hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. Now if the faith has decreased or vanished, what will happen? Then man will love this world. This world will be the ideal, it will be the goal, to gather as much wealth as he can, to get as much authority as he can, to make as much property as he can, to enjoy life as much as he can, to have the luxuries of this life as much as he can. This is the inevitable result. When there is no faith in the hereafter, then there is no faith in the book of Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to them. The inevitable result is hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. And I want to now quote full text of a hadith that I referred to in my some earlier lecture also, because Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given this disease the name of wahan. This wahan is hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut, and the Prophet said, O Muslims, this wahan will appear in you also. You will have the same, you will suffer from the same disease of wahan with which the Yahud, the Bani Israel had been suffering. Now the hadith is An Sawban radiyallahu anhu. Sawban was a freed slave of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just like Zayd ibn Haritha radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was also a freed slave. He was a slave, but Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam freed him, and then he became a mawla in the Arabic terminology of that time. An Sawban radiyallahu anhu. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, يوشك الأمم أن تداعى عليكم. This hadith is from Abu Dawud, Sunan Abu Dawud rahimahullah. يوشك الأمم أن تداعى عليكم. I fear that a time will come when the nations of the world will call each other upon you. And in another, riwayah, another narration of this hadith, which is in Musnad Ahmad ibn Hanbal, the same hadith, there are additional words, min kulli ufuqin, from every direction, from all the horizons, nations will come and they will be preying upon you, they will be eating you, they will be exploiting you, they will be enslaving you. Yushiku al-umamu an tada'a ilaykum. I fear a time will come that all the nations of the world, from all the directions, from all the horizons, they will call each other upon you. Kama tada'al aqalatu ila qas'atiha. As you know, people are called to a feast. When the feast is ready and the meals have been served, then they are called, come and help yourself, come and eat. Actually, in that fashion, all the nations of the world will call each other. Here is a very delicious dish, this Muslim ummah. You can eat it from this side and that side, and from this side and that side. So that will be the condition of you as an ummah regarding the nations of the world. Yushikul umamu an tada alaykum min kulli ufaqin kama tada al-akalatu ila qas'atiha. Faqala qailun. When the Prophet uttered these words, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, somebody from the audience, he asked a question. Min qillatin nahnu yawmaidin ya Rasulullah. O Messenger of Allah, how will this condition happen to us? Will we become very small in number at that time? That we become an easy prey for the nations of the world? Will our number decrease? Qala bal antum yawmaidin kaseer. The Prophet said, no, you will be great in numbers. Your number will be very great. As we boast today that we are more than 1 billion. We are more than one fifth of the total world population. The same words. Bal antum yawmaidin kaseer. Walakinnakum ghusaun ka ghusai sail. But your position will become the position of scum. Scum over a flood. When a flood is coming, you see there are straws and leaves and froth over the water. Water is not seen. Water is underneath. Over it is a crust, and that is scum. You will become ghusa'u sail. You will become the scum of a flood. وَلَا يَنْزِعَنَّ اللَّهُ مِنْ صُدُورِ عُدُوِّ الْمَهَابَةَ مِنْكُمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take away from the hearts of your enemies your fear. They will no more fear you. This fear, this mahaba, this robe, this will go away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take away from the hearts of your enemies your fear and your mahaba and your khawf. وَلَا يَغْزِفَنَّ فِي قُلُوبِكُمُ الْوَهْنِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will throw into your hearts al-wahn. This wahn. Wow, ha, noon. Qila wa mal wahnu ya Rasulallah. Now the second question came, O Messenger of Allah, tell us, what is this wahn? And the Prophet replied, Qala hubbu dunya wa karahiyatul maut. This wahn consists of two things: love for this world, this life, this world, and fear from death. When these two things join together, the disease, the resultant disease is wahn. And this wahn is actually the result of all this degradation and downfall which I have enumerated step by step. First of all, they think that we are the chosen people of the Lord. Because we belong to some ummah, so our salvation is ensured already. And why to work hard? Why to bother yourself? So laxity in action and deed. Laxity in action and deed, that produces now shak and raib. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُورِثُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ بَعْدِهِمْ لَفِي شَكٍّ مِّنْهُ مُرِيبٍ. This shak and raib, that again decreases your actions. This decrease in actions and deeds, good deeds, again increases shak and raib. And this vicious circle goes on till such time that now for those people, although they say we believe in hereafter, actually their ideal, their goal becomes this world, this life, its luxuries, its comforts, its name, its fame, its authority, property here, wealth here. This becomes the goal. They work for it, they live for it, they die for it, they work hard for it, they work day and night for it. They dedicate all their capabilities, all their time for this end. So that is actually, the result will be now wahn. Hubbud dunya wa karahiyatul maut. And when wahn appears in a nation, now it becomes a very easy prey for the enemies. So this is actually the diagnosis that has been given here. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا إِنْ زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ لِلَّهِ مِنْ دُونِ النَّاسِ فَتَمَنَّوُا الْمَوْتَ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. You must desire for death if you are true, that you are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now here a question arises. Is wishing for death permissible according to the Sharia? We all know that suicide, killing yourself, is haram. It's from among the kabair. The biggest, sins is suicide. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent you here. Why? For testing. خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. This is an examination, period of examination, period of testing. Now you run away from the test. You don't want to pass the examination. So actually you are, so to say, you are not ready to fulfill the purpose of this life which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in this world. That is why, this suicide is haram. You have to stay here. You have to bear what comes to you. So actually when this is haram, and secondly, longing for death or desiring for death, because you are, not ready to face the hardships or the tests in this life, although you might not commit suicide, but if you want death and pray for death, oh Allah, give me death. Why? I can't bear these conditions. I can't bear these hardships. I can't bear, the tribulations that I am facing. This is also haram. It is not permissible. But there are exceptions, and these exceptions, for example, there is an example in the life of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala. When he was on his last Hajj of his life, when he was going back from Mecca to Medina, where the qafla, the caravan was staying, in some, middle of the way, he lay down on the sand, flat, looking to the heavens, and then he prayed, oh Allah, my body has weakened, my bones have weakened, and my responsibilities are increasing every day, because the extent of the Muslim state, Islamic state, it was enormously increasing. Now the responsibility, when he says that even if a dog dies of hunger, and where? Near Dajla and Furat, Euphrates and Tigris, if it's that distant land, a dog dies of hunger, Umar will be responsible on the day of judgment. So now my responsibility is increasing day by day, and I've grown old. My bones have become weak. So please take me up. Now please make me return to you. Before I became ashamed that I am not fulfilling my duties. Now this is actually a different type of longing and different type of prayer. And the second example we have of the Prophet himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you must have heard and you must have read in the seerah before his death, as is the case with all the prophets, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them an option. If you like, your work has been accomplished. You have done your work. If you like, you can return to us. And if you prefer, you can still stay. If you prefer to stay more, we will grant you more life. And this option came to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. And when he had some relief from his disease in which he died, ailment, he came out of his hujrah, of his apartment, and Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala was leading the prayers. When he saw that the Prophet is coming, he wanted to go behind and leave that place for Imam, for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he just said, no, you continue. He sat by the side of Hazrat Abu Bakr. He was now leading Abu Bakr, and Abu Bakr was leading the whole congregation. Then after that prayer, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave a sermon. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a choice to a servant of his, to a bondsman of his, that if he likes to remain in this world, he can remain more. If he likes, if he prefers his company, well then it's his choice. The Hazrat Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala started weeping. The whole congregation, they were amazed. Why is he weeping? They couldn't understand that the bondsman is the Prophet himself. But Hazrat Abu Bakr understood it, so he started weeping. So actually to every prophet, Allah gives this option. That is why we find that the last words that the Prophet uttered in this life were, Allahumma fil rafiqil a'la. Allahumma fil rafiqil a'la. Now I don't want to stay any more in this world, and I prefer the rifaqah and company of the Ar-Rafiqul A'la, the highest friend. I prefer him. So this is a absolutely different thing. But to ask for death only because you are not ready to face the hardships of life, the tests and tribulations, it is not permissible. So then what is the justification? Let me quote a hadith also. This is from Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawood, Nasai, Ibn Majah, Ahmad. All these muhaddiseen, they have reported this hadith. And the Sahabi, the narrator, is Hazrat Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Marfu'an, he says that the Prophet said, لا يتمنين أحدكم الموت من ضر أصابه فإن كان لا بد فاعلا فليقل اللهم أحيني ما كانت الحياة خيرا لي وتوفني إذا كانت الوفاة خيرا لي. Nobody amongst you should long or desire or pray for death only because of the dur, the pain or the suffering that he is experiencing. Because of pain, because of suffering, because of tribulations. Nobody amongst you should to pray for death, long for death, ask for death from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَإِنْ كَانَ لَا بُدَّ فَاعِلًا. If it becomes essential for him, if it becomes unbearable for him, the conditions, and he thinks that he has to say, oh Allah, now send me the death, he should say, now these words, he said, he should say, Allahumma ahyani ma kanatil hayatu khairan li. Oh Allah, keep me alive as long as life is better for me. If in your knowledge this life would be beneficial to me, if I can get some good deeds done in the remaining life, then you keep me alive. وَتَوَفَّنِي إِذَا كَانَتِ الْوَفَاةُ خَيْرًا لِي. But when in your knowledge, according to your knowledge, death becomes better for me, then please give me the death. So in this way, you give your matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That, oh Allah, if you think, if it is in your knowledge, just as you know, I told you that dua istikhara, the prayer of istikhara, that is essentially the same thing. Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi'ilmika wa astaqdiruka biqudratika wa as'aluka min fadlika al-azim. فإنك تعلم ولا أعلم وتقدر ولا أقدر. اللهم إن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر خير لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فاقدره لي ويسره لي ثم بارك لي فيه. وإن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر شر لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فاصرفه عني واصرفني عنه واقدر لي الخير حيث كان ثم أرضني به. This prayer, the Sahaba, the companions of the Prophet say that Prophet ﷺ taught us this dua, this supplication, this prayer, just as he taught us Quran, in the same manner, with the same emphasis. And what's the essence of this dua, this prayer? Oh Allah, I ask for good from your knowledge, because you know I don't know. I see the exterior of a thing and I think it is good for me. You know the reality, whether it is really beneficial for me or not. So Allah, I give my matter in your hand. If you know, according to your knowledge, this matter or this thing is beneficial for me, then you decide it for me and in favor of me. And if you know that this thing is not beneficial for me, it is harmful for me, in this life also and in the hereafter, then you know, take it away from me and take me away from it. So in this way, a person who has real faith in Iman, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he should hand over his affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is called tafweezul amri ilallah. وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. I hand over all my affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He knows and He is seeing everything about His bondsmen. He knows, you know, which is happening to me, He knows. Whether it is going to be beneficial for me or not, He knows. Whether it is harmful for me or not, He knows. I don't know. فَإِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ وَلَا أَعْلَمُ وَتَقْدِرُ وَلَا أَقْدِرُ. So this is the condition. So then what was the point in saying to them, Ya ayyuhalladhina hadu in za'amtum annakum awliya'u lillahi min duni nasi fatamannabul mawta in kuntum sadiqeen. The only explanation seems to be, it was a sort of mubahala. What is mubahala? When there are two parties. This party claims we are true in our stand. The other party is claiming we are true in our stand. We believe it. Then you know mubahala is that join hands, sit together and say, oh Allah, whosoever is telling a lie, curse him. Asking for curse for a person who is telling a lie, who is insincere. Actually this is mubahala. So it was a sort of mubahala, challenge of mubahala thrown towards Bani Israel, if you really think that you are the beloveds of Allah, because in your heart you know that you are not the beloveds of Allah. Your heart tells you what you are. Balil insanu ala nafsihi basira walau alqa ma'azira. We have read these ayat in Surat al-Qiyamah. Everybody knows where I stand. Everybody knows what is my reality, what in reality I am. So actually this is only, these are your words, you don't mean it. If you really mean it, come on. Let us, ask for curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is telling a lie when he says that he is or they are the beloveds of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the last two ayat, they are very simple. وَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ. And they are not at all going to long or pray for death because of the deeds that their hands had already sent. They know it. Everybody knows where he stands. And they know what deeds they have sent before them towards akhirah. What are their, the earnings, real earnings. فَلَا يَتَمَنَّوْنَهُ أَبَدًا بِمَا قَدَّمَتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِالظَّالِمِينَ. Allah very well knows these evildoers. He is aware of what they are and what they are thinking actually and what they are saying from their mouths. What's the difference between the two? Allah knows it. قُلْ إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ. Tell them, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, verily the death from which you are running away. Actually you run away from death. Each one of you, as I quoted the ayat in the previous session also, يَوَدُّ أَحَدُهُمْ لَوْ يُعَمَّرُ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ. Each one of these Jews wants that his life should be made 1,000 years. They want this world. They are running away from death. But tell them, إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ. Verily, indeed, undoubtedly, the death from which you are running, it will come and it will overtake you. It will meet you. فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. And then you will be sent back to that, though Allah, who knows everything that is hidden and everything which is evident, everything which is present before you and everything which is absent from your knowledge or from your sight. ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ. Hidden are your thoughts, your niyyah, your intentions. All these things, Allah knows them also. And what is before, that is your deeds, your actions, they are also Allah in Allah's knowledge. ثُمَّ تُرَدُّونَ إِلَىٰ عَالِمِ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ فَيُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Then He will apprise you, He will tell you each and every act that you had performed. بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. What you had been doing, that will be placed before you. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. Whosoever has done anything good equal to the weight of one zarrah, one atom, he will see it before him. And whosoever has committed any sin of the weight of an atom, he will see it before him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not deprive anybody of the rewards of any of his deeds. And that is actually the day of judgment. Everything will become apparent. Now please have a look on this sequence. The sequence in this Surah Mubarakah, first part, the most important part. The functions of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through which he changed the persons, the individuals. He gave them iman, which penetrated their full personalities. And then he taught them, يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, purified their souls. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, then taught them the book, the law, the sharia, the writ of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and wisdom. And then he prepared, an ummah, a Hizbullah. That Hizbullah was required to go to war for the cause of Allah, to struggle for the cause of Allah, which is the main subject of Surah As-Saff. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu hal adullukum ala tijaratin tunjikum min azabin alim tu'minuna billahi wa rasulihi wa tujahiduna fi sabilillahi bi amwalikum wa anfusikum. Unless such individuals are present, who will go to make war or make jihad for the cause of Allah? So first step in the revolution is to prepare people for that, to change the human beings, and then to forge them into a party, and then to challenge the system to bring about a revolution in the whole system of life, the whole political socio-economic system. And that is actually the sequence here. And for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a book, and the book was then handed over by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his ummah, and we have to take this book in our hands, and we have to gird up our loins to bring about that revolution again in this world. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.